And the topic is debt recovery and resolutions, challenging the status quo with technology. And to proceed this, we have Vipin V, partner BCG India, as the moderator, Rishabh Goyal, co-founder and CEO Credgenics, Kunal Khatpal, Chief Risk Officer, Hinduja Leyland Finance Limited. Can I have all of them on stage, please?
Hello. Thank you so much. So maybe I'll start with a quick anecdote. So as part of my engagement, I've been advising one of the leading NBFCs in India for the last 4 years. And a couple of years back, we were having a strategy discussion with the chairman and MD and so on and so forth. And we were discussing about lending business. And they told me a very interesting thing, right? They said, all of you think that we are into lending business, but actually we're not into lending business, we are into collections business. That's what we do. Lending is very, very easy. You open the tap tomorrow, there will be thousands of customers who are ready to come and take loans from you. But collecting back from them is a difficult task, right? And in this context, over the last 2 years have been one of the most challenging times for the lending companies in India, including NBFCs as well as fintechs. And within NBFCs or within lending business also, if I look at it, collections function is or are the people who face the maximum challenges on two fronts, right? The kind of flow which we saw in terms of delinquent accounts was crazy, and the operating model changes which they have to go through to adjust to or adapt to the COVID situation was again not unseen or not unprecedented, right? Now, in this context, maybe I'll start with Kunal. So, considering that you are from an NBFC, in the post-COVID era, what kind of, how do you see the portfolio evolving now? And secondly, what kind of operational challenges have you seen during COVID and now, and how are you solving it?
Yeah, thank you so much, and good afternoon, everybody. See, if we try and divide the NBFC era into two phases, pre-COVID and post-COVID, there are two large changes which have happened. First is that the portfolio, which was earlier having a cash flow which was measurable, the customer base which was earlier being there, they were not relocating to places, or their business incomes were, their business avenues were also, stable. Now both these things have basically changed. So the post-COVID era has seen that the cash flows of the same customer base has become erratic. You don't find that, the cash flows are still, coming in a seamless manner like they were coming earlier. The second is, we saw a lot of people going back to their home bases, so the kind of a customer base that we have, where about risk management comes in on the top, and, we are trying to envisage the stress scenarios again. But hopefully, the government will be able to take care of it this time.
Yeah, but we understand or we appreciate many of the things you said, because that was well discussed as well. I think what are some of the operating challenges you see in collections at this point of time? And as an NBFC, what are some of the steps you are taking to tackle them?
From a collection efficiency standpoint, there are, again, if I have to club them, I would say 3 or 4 different challenges. First, let's start with the collection strategy itself. Right, the strategy has to be very, very clear that, whom do you want to collect from a physical mode, and whom do you want to collect from a, a telecalling or a soft collection mode. Because now that, the things have become even tougher, and the portfolios are also seeing a lot of stress, as we saw the NBFC portfolios are, right now under some stress. And this stress, if you notice, is coming from 2021, I think, second quarter onwards. And I mean 2021 FY, second quarter onwards. So therefore, there is a lot of challenge that we are facing in terms of our margins. Therefore, the collection strategy has to be very, very, critical and to the point that, okay, this is the percentage of portfolio where we want to do, soft bucket collection, and we don't want to utilize, physical mode of collections. And, then wherever we try and, wherever we have tried but we are not succeeding, we will go for a physical mode of collection. So first and the foremost thing is strategy. The second part is within the, the soft bucket collection, there are three ways of collecting it, what we have learned of this particular stage. One is we can do the traditional call center calling, and people can do all these callings and then try and get a P2P or a payment from the customer or non-contact, so traditional way. Then the alternate ways which have come in is basically connecting to the customer through digital ways. Because one blessing in disguise that COVID brought for the industry and as a country and as for the entire globe is it has increased the digital revolution for the, for the general public. So again, coming back to our customer base, which is basically largely NTC, and they are not very digitally savvy. They do not have very large digital footprints, but they will have some or the other ways of connecting through digital, maybe WhatsApp, maybe some other GPS contacts and all those stuff. So we utilize digital modes of connecting with the customer through SMS. These SMS were earlier used to be, very easily in English, but in this time we started with vernacular SMSs. Then we started with, connecting with the customer over, the voice bots. Though we were not able to succeed much around that, but, I don't see any failure as a failure. I see every failure as a learning. So we understood, what we need to do over there. So, but anyways, for the industry, where a lot of behavioral-based loans are being given. In our case, we do a lot of viability-based loans. So the voice bot does not, work for us, but it will work for a lot of behavioral-based loans like PL customers or credit card customers or, two-wheeler customers. So, but, in that solution, the voice bots will work is what my assumption says. And the third, which was very interesting, what we started to do is also map the customers in a, from their from the geo-tagging perspective. So we knew, again understand, my customer is moving all across. If he's a truck driver, he's moving intercity. If he's a small commercial vehicle, he's moving intracity. If he's a three-wheeler driver, he's moving intracity. So from geo-tagging, we came to know where the customer is at this moment. For the customer base which had migrated, we knew that he is not even in his local place where he was earlier, but he's gone to his hometown. But my spread is across 1,500 branches in India, so we sent those people to his hometown, asking him that, is he capable enough to pay right now? Or does he want actually for us to, repossess his vehicle? Because the moment we are saying repossession, his earning is gone. So, but we tried using these three ways, the traditional calling way, the voice bots way, and for the physical one, we enabled the geo-tagging so that, we are able to connect with the customer to the nearest possible scenario.
Understood. So Kunal, like Kunal said, I think one of the silver lining of COVID was the pace of digital adoption across all business functions, right? Now, Rishabh, considering that you have a startup which focuses on the more digital collections part of it, how do you see the last couple of years evolving, or how did it go for you guys? And then secondly, how do you believe, or how do you think fintechs or the latest digital technologies can enable better collections?
No, actually, I think both very relevant points which Kunal mentioned, and I think you also started that lending is a collections business. Obviously, it's easy to give out money, but collecting with the interest is actually the business part of it. So I think earlier, if you see, right, the whole focus of everyone, like whether it's NBFCs, fintechs, was to solve for the underwriting, was to solve for sourcing. And that is also actually a big problem because there was a huge segment which was not being catered by banks, traditional banks. And that obviously India's in terms of credit penetration is maybe at 20% of what it should be if you compare with any developed economies or with the West. So there is obviously a problem of sourcing and actually figuring out. But when we say that we have solved the problem of sourcing underwriting, it essentially means that we have a little flexibility on the underwriting policy, right? Because the banks were not giving loan to the same category of people because of XYZ documentation. Now we have given out loans to them. So if we have actually compromised on one aspect, we should have at least a strength on the other aspect. So the other aspect remains collections. Like if we are able to build some core competencies, which allows us to actually tell us that like at least now we have given loan to XYZ, but we have the ability to collect or at least predict what is going to happen. So I think then the core competency has to lie on collections. But I think as also Kunal mentioned, the blessing in disguise, COVID enforced digitization across the segments. And the reason for enforcement obviously was that once the volumes which essentially were anticipated will lie in the default segment, it was impossible for people to do it. There's like, you cannot manage 1 lakh accounts with 100 member call center. So it was impossible for people to reach out. Hence, I think digitization was the need of the hour. It was essentially that you didn't have an option, so you had to adopt it. But then obviously there's no going backwards, right? If you are there, you adopt it once, then obviously you could see the merit of it. Though I think also agreed with your point that it is not a pure digital play which can actually solve the problems. How we saw the industry evolving, I think we saw that at least all these basic reach outs, this filtering of data and everything, right? There is a lot of data which you can generate out of just digital reach outs, right? At what point in time borrower responds, which channel is the best to reach out, what is the most preferred language of communication. All these things essentially can be figured out by digital channels, by WhatsApp or VoiceBot, you can do that. It's not necessary that a caller has to call him to understand all these aspects. And that is a more scalable way. And also the extension to that is the cost of collections. I think here the whole thesis, like also, if my cost of collections goes up, my underwriting will become expensive. I'll any which ways pass it on to the borrower while new underwriting, right? So the cost of collection was also one parameter which was being focused by digitization. And here what we have seen, that digitization has happened as an extension of the physical world. It has essentially reduced the pressure on the physical collection. Though physical collections are here to stay, I would not say that they are going away anytime soon. But with the adoption of digitization, I'll like to throw some facts, right? Also, when it comes to internet user, or in rural India specifically, I think there are 650 million internet users with active internet, and also 450 million roughly WhatsApp accounts, active WhatsApp accounts. So it essentially means that the penetration of internet and with the mobile essentially is happening there. And NBFCs are leveraging that to dispense loans, like loan over WhatsApp, right? All these things are happening. But when it comes to collection on a WhatsApp, that is not happening. So that is something, no, you have to actually go there, meet him and collect. So that is a typical mindset which obviously will exist for some time, but it is changing for the good. And we hope that at least this digital wave on the collection side would also surpass, and we have seen encouraging responses across the banking segment, and people are ready to change.
Yeah, thank you, Rishabh. I think one of the things all of us agree is that India is not moving to 100% digital online collections anytime soon. So the physical is, or digital is going to stay for a slightly longer time, right? So in that context, from both of you, it will be good to hear how can latest technologies, digital or technology interventions can enable the field force or the collection team or collection field force in a much better way so that the collection efficiencies can be improved. Maybe we can start with Kunal and then we can come to Rishabh.
Yeah, I think the term that we just concluded our corporate plan a couple of days back, and we've introduced a new terminology. Like every time it happens, you have to introduce something new in the corporate plans to encourage the members over there to see what is the new terminology. So the new terminology that we have come out with is something called as phygital, which is a mix of physical way of doing things and then combining it with the digital enablers which can be there. So essentially what we have tried to do is that we've tried to create models in our business, in the corporate office, sitting in the air conditioned office, to try and enable things for the people who are going on the field, who are actually sweating themselves out, and then going there, meeting the customers, and then coming back with either a P2P or basically non-traceability or customer not available. So those were the challenges that we envisaged. We said that we want to be absolutely on the mark when it comes to the physical team trying to reach out to the customer. So let's try and take a challenge that all these attempts where we are not able to meet the customer, those attempts have to come down by 50%, just to start with. Because you have to keep some goal in mind and some parameter in mind, when you're enabling something. The second is, when it comes to P2P customers, we try to analyze the behavior of these P2P customers and analyze it over the period of, let's say, past 1 year to 1.5 years. If they're consistently saying that they are going to promise to pay to us at a particular point in time, are they actually paying? If they're paying, we know that, it is just that these customers need a reminder for somebody to remind to them that, you need to pay to us. So to get our own money, we have to tell them from them that, you have to pay to us. So, for those customers, we tried and eliminated the physical touch points. We said for those customers, we will try and contact them through the digital format and, remind them with folded hands that, you have to pay back the loan that you have taken. And then monitor whether the payback is in the similar range of what it used to be when we used to do it in a physical manner. So that saves us the cost of physical collections in that portfolio. The second is where the customers need a push, where somebody needs to meet him physically, but there are multiple attempts, and then only we used to get the payment. And in those multiple attempts, we found that customers were not available at a point in time, and there was a lot of to and fro's which are happening. Let's also understand a physical, aspect where our collectors also not all the time go and meet the customer, while we get to an understanding that yes, they have gone. That may also be a challenge. So what we need to do is, we need to geo-tag them. And whom do we geotag? We geotag the collector and we geotag the customer also, and understand, where is he and where he is trying to be. And then basically try and see if there is a solution which we can come up with, where we can try and merge the two, and the person can meet the customer at the particular point in place. And then try and establish a connect that, if he is meeting, then he will be able, that's an assumption that he will be able to collect. So that is the second intervention. The third intervention that we took for the feet on street was, the entire incentivization piece. Because let's not forget, that is the way that, these guys earn. So we tried and, gave him an incentivization, like, you have seen the Uber and Ola models. So when there is a peak hour, you see that, the rates go up. Correct? So we have also told them that, these are hard bucket customers. If you collect from them, you will get more incentivization. And within the same range, there are also, some soft bucket customers, because you are passing that particular area. If you want to collect, you can collect from them also. But if you collect from a hard bucket customer, you will get a higher payout as compared to this thing. And the gap was significantly higher. So then it depends on him. If he wants to basically, go and collect from a soft bucket customer, maybe 1, 2, and 3, his fuel cost will be, reimbursed from that collection incentive. But when he goes to the hard bucket customer, he earns over and above, what he's expected, and that becomes his saving. So, these are some of the factors, which we tried to use, or we are trying to use rather. Let me be honest, we're trying to use. And, hopefully we see some success in them.
Yeah. Rishabh, any thoughts on this?
Yeah. No, so actually I obviously think that wherever, like in the thesis is that using any technology, right? Like in collections, for example, let's try to automate whatever is possible. Let's try to remove manual intervention wherever possible. And wherever it's not possible, let's try to improve the productivity of the people involved there. So when it comes to the feet on street, I think so that is the last funnel which essentially is there out in collections. So I think the core focus is that firstly, that funnel should be very limited, as in we should try to cure and do everything right via all the other modes, and only some specific filtered accounts should actually flow to that funnel, where essentially a field intervention should be required. And that also, it should be treated as a reminder system versus a bullying system. I think that is also a very important thing. And here, what we have seen is that collections, when it comes to collections, right, the traditional mindset is that it is somewhat of a bullying you are doing, you are sending someone to threaten, etc., etc. Versus the other way to look at it is as a reminder system. Even if I always miss my credit card payments, but when I get a message, I am actually thankful that someone reminded me, because you have so many things going on in your life. Obviously, if there is some nudge which happens that you need to pay, right, and you have the funds, so you will do that. But having said that, I think obviously there are some categories and some segments which require constant nudging, and also there is a flow to the field. But when it comes to the field, I think firstly, after whatever the flow has been reduced, I think how we can improve the productivity of the people involved on field, for example, right? So one, Kunal mentioned as an incentive structure. It's very, very important that essentially their incentives are aligned, but not at the cost of the harassing and to take out the money at any cost. So hence, it is a very thin line. You have to navigate very carefully that how essentially you need to align the incentive structure, keeping in view that they will not cross the line of harassment. So definitely incentive structure is one, but having said that, then I think I was chatting with Kunal, so he was mentioning the code of conduct, which essentially has been implemented recently, which is also very, very important, that just to figure out that while collecting, right, we are not just going too far and actually maintaining the decorum of our conversation, where we are being sympathetic and also trying to understand the situation and then trying to see if what is the best way out. So it's trying to figure out a mutual route to help close the loan, because you cannot just force anyone to pay. So on that particular aspect, I think there are two aspects from, I would say, from a borrower perspective, which are very important. But now when it comes to the agent, there are multiple things which can be done. Like there are multiple things, even in our, like we had an app, so what we did to improve the productivity, we launched some gamification. So that people essentially get to know how others are doing. And it's in India that works very well, right? If you get to know that you have to be at top, right, that leadership board will give you an incentive structure automatically. Whether it's not aligned with even in the compensation, just to maintain their ranking, they'll try to be the highest collector. So doing a lot of gamification and actually incentivizing them in compensation is one part. In at least that is a psychological compensation they get being at the top of the table. So that is another part which essentially actually works really well, and we have seen a lot of competition because of that. Secondly, like improving the productivity, there are multiple things, right? GPS route monitoring, which essentially enabled that you essentially have to follow these routes because this is the best way. You will be able to maximize your collections. So that is one part where essentially a lot of these optimizations can happen on how they're navigating, because they are clueless of there are 10 locations to visit, how to do that. And third is also bringing a lot of these industry level insights into them. So like at an industry level, right, we get a lot of insights onto what exactly is the collections going at a pin code level across the industry, not specific to any bank or a lender, but across the industry, how is that pin code performing. So that is also very important if that can be looped back to the collections team so that they can use that in the priority order. And at the end of the day, it is about prioritization. Everything is about prioritization, because the number of accounts in collections, it's so huge. You cannot individually cater to each and every account. So it's about where you want to put the money in, how you want to invest, and how you need to prioritize. Hence, the entire funnel from the digital to telecalling to field, and even in field, if we can create a priority basis, the tendency or the propensity to pay. I think that is the whole thesis which we are on.
So thank you, Kunal and Rishabh. I think we will close it now. So in summary, I think what all of us are mentioned is collections is one area where still there is a lot of traditional mindset. I think while COVID has improved the adoption of digital technologies in collections, but there's a long way to go. And I think over the next few years, I'm sure we will see a lot of traction of digital and other technology interventions on the collection side as well. Thank you so much for taking time out.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Vipin. Thank you, everyone.
And may I request A. Ramesh Kumar, Chairman and MD, Laraksha Impact Finance Enterprise, to kindly climb up the stage and to felicitate Mr. Vipin V, Partner BCG India, who's been the moderator for this discussion. Can we all give a huge round of applause? Thank you. Moving ahead, to felicitate Mr. Rishabh Goyal, co-founder and CEO Credgenic. Following, Kunal Khatpal, Chief Risk Officer, Hinduja Leyland Finance Limited. Yeah. So, can I request everybody to kindly join for a group picture?